It's Wednesday, February 14th. I'm your host, Sarah Beal. Happy Valentine's Day. On today's show, we talked to Police Chief Paul McDonald, Glenn Cannon of the Cape Cod Commission, and Assistant Airport Manager Katie Service. But first, let's get a look at today's top headlines. A reminder from the Harbor Master's office, boating season is coming, so don't forget to renew before the deadlines pass. Coming this week, marina waiting list renewals and mooring permit waiting list renewals are due by February 15th by 4:15 p.m. Next week, mooring permit renewals are due by February 28th by 4:15 p.m. For more information, you can visit townofbarnstable.us/harbormaster, or you can contact the Marine and Environmental Affairs Division at 508-790-6273. The Barnstable Youth Commission will again be hosting their Community Prevention Forum and 7th Grade Youth Summit. The Community Prevention Forum will be held on Thursday, March 15th at Cape Cod Community College in the Tilden Arts Center. The public is welcome to attend for a presentation and open discussion with a panel of Barnstable police officers on what the trends are, what you should look for, as well as a Q&A. The 7th Grade Youth Summit will take place the next day, also at Cape Cod Community College, with Dynamic Influence and Kevin Rosario presenting along with BHS Peer Leadership. There will also be presentations by many clubs, sports, and activities available when the 7th graders enter the high school in the fall. The Board of Health has announced that there will be a public hearing to review and discuss lifeguard exemption requirements. A public hearing will be held on Tuesday, February 27th at 3 p.m. in the Town Hall hearing room. The hearing will be held to provide citizens the opportunity to be heard. The current requirements for a lifeguard exemption can be viewed on the town website at townofbarnstable.us. Coming up next, Chief of Police Paul McDonald. Chief, thank you so much for joining us today. We've got quite a few things to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is Mr. Brunel that was arrested recently. He's been breaking into people's homes allegedly while they're attending funerals.
Right. It first came to our attention, back in early December when we first had one beanie in Osterville, and it just happened to occur when the family was away at a wake or a funeral. We didn't think much of it at the time, and then a couple of days later, a second one came in, and then we saw a pattern. Then we notified all the surrounding towns and the other towns in southeastern Massachusetts, and then we worked cooperatively. A short time later, a couple of weeks later, we were able to identify an individual, Mr. Brunel, who was a primary suspect and who had done time in the past, 18 months, for doing the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So we set out and we put surveillance teams on him probably 24 hours a day, and eventually we were able to track him while he was doing a break in Cotuit, and he left the break shortly thereafter. The surveillance team was able to keep eyes on him while the other officers were able to verify that break had actually occurred. Once they did that, he was pulled over, he was arrested, he was brought back to the scene, and the jewelry that he had on his pocket was positively identified as that belonging to the homeowner. He was subsequently arrested. We are looking at Mr. Brunel for at least 5 beanies in this town alone. We also know that he's facing at least 2 in Mashpee and several up in the Plymouth area. He did have a Plymouth address, and we've recently contacted other departments if they have any similar incidents to contact us, and we'll move forward with as many charges as humanly possible.
Wow.
But something interesting happened yesterday. When we arrested him, he was released by the bail commission on $5,000 cash bail, and that was on Saturday he was released. Yesterday at his arraignment, he walked into court. The assistant district attorney requested $15,000 cash bail be put on him. His defense attorney argued that the $5,000 should remain in place. Then the judge turned around and put $25,000 bail on him because the judge really appreciated the severity of it and the ruthlessness of it. I mean, the man preyed on people at the most vulnerable points. I mean, they're at funerals and wakes, burying their loved ones, and this individual is breaking into their homes. So they did a good job.
Yeah, it's awful. It's adding insult to injury. These people are already down, and to have this kind of thing happen to them is just terrible. So hopefully, this will be he'll be taken care of swiftly.
Right. Well, our big deal is we want to try to get as much of the jewelry back as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. Once he was arrested, we did go back up there. We did execute a search warrant, and we did get a backpack and duffel bag full of jewelry. Now we have to try to identify it, where it came from, and we really like to get as much back as possible. But we know a lot of the gold jewelry, as soon as it's stolen, it's melted immediately, so It's kind of like gone forever. And we are dealing with a pawn shop up in the Hanover area where he was getting rid of most of his stolen items.
Well, hopefully you're able to reclaim some of it. Another incident that happened over the weekend, there was a terrible car accident on Route 132 involving
Right.
a drunk driver.
Right. This was there were 6 people in one vehicle, and the operator, who was eventually determined to be under the influence of alcohol, was in a single vehicle by himself. He's traveling in northerly direction on 132. The vehicle in front of him had stopped at a traffic signal, and he just plowed right into the back of him, injuring 6 of the 7 individuals. Yeah, and he was subsequently arrested for operating under the influence of alcohol. He was identified as Andre Melko, Malko. He was from Randolph, Mass.
Just awful. I remember I saw the lights, for that accident, and it was already kind of a rainy evening. So to add that on top of it, it's never a good idea to drink and drive. So
absolutely, and it put a lot of strain on emergency services.
Mm-hmm.
To transport that many people, it takes multiple rescue units.
Mm-hmm.
It actually happened in the village of Hyannis, but the Hyannis CNO and MM responded, Barnstable Fire Department responded, and they called it mutual aid from Yamba. So I mean, it tied up a lot of resources to get everybody to the hospital safely.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, everybody that was in the car that was hit will fully recover.
They were all treated and released.
Wonderful.
Yep.
And the last thing we want to talk about, there's a lot going on with the coyote hunt.
Yes.
And there's a contest being held by Powderhorn Sports. What can you tell me about what happened over the weekend?
Well, first, it's perfectly legal.
Yes.
It's perfectly legal to hunt coyote. I believe they can hunt it until March 18th, so there's no violation of the law there. Mm-hmm. People were upset at the fact how the Powderhorn was handling it. They were offering a reward for the largest coyote, and then the number of coyotes and the gross weight of all the coyotes combined. And people found that to be very offensive. So there was a demonstration this past Saturday between 2 and 4 on Barnstable Road. And at the peak of the demonstration, we counted 73 individuals who had demonstrated against it. And the Powderhorn, they knew it was coming. It was no surprise to them, so they had invited a lot of hunters to come in, and they had like a cookout in their parking lot for all of the hunters. So it came a little adversarial at times with people yelling back and forth at each other. So it was, but there was no problem. They ended peacefully at 4 o'clock, and people have a right to protest, and
mm-hmm.
and I guess the other individuals have a right to hunt and have a cookout.
Right.
So
it's glad to know that you were there, but it didn't end. There was no incident involved.
Words were exchanged, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Everybody tried to be as mature as humanly possible. A couple of individuals we had to speak to, and they got the gist of what we're trying to say, and that solved all the problems.
Okay, great. Chief, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to chatting with you again next week.
Talk to you then.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. My guest today is Chief of Police Paul McDonald. Coming up, Assistant Airport Manager Katie Service, but first, Technical Services Director of the Cape Cod Commission, Glenn Cannon. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us today. It's our monthly transportation talk, and we have some interesting things we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the Mass DOT Transportation Improvement Plan and the Mass DOT Capital Investment Plan.
Correct. So, so the Cape Cod Commission, we help the Metropolitan Planning Organization put together their transportation improvement program, which are mostly highway and then transit projects that we can fit within our budgeted allotment every year. They give us about $10 million. For that, believe it or not, we really only get about 2 projects a year.
Wow.
Traffic signals, a roadway project. Once you get into a roadway project, one roadway project can easily take up $10 million. The Route 28 Yarmouth Road traffic signal costs $10 million.
Wow.
Right, extremely complicated, has the railroad tracks there, a lot of different access points, so it doesn't go that far. But but MassDOT also has their capital investment plan, and that has many different programs within it. So our program of trying to fix intersections, helping the transit authority, we feed into this CIP, this capital investment plan. And that program encompasses almost all things MassDOT included. And that includes, the registry of motor vehicles, even councils on aging, large-scale programs and small-scale programs. So that's why it's so important that we do reach out. MassDOT wants us to give us their input, just like we're always looking for input on our programs. Mm-hmm. MassDOT wants the same thing. I believe they're going to have a public hearing. I believe we'll be at the Cape Cod Community College in February sometime. I'm waiting for a date and a time. I'll be happy to give you that information when it comes.
Wonderful.
But they want to hear from all residents of Cape Cod about your experiences with all things transportation. You know, I think of it, you know, at the Registry of Motor Vehicles, I don't spend as much time as I used to at the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Well, I'm very thankful for that.
Right.
You know, so you want to tell them what's working, you know, especially as, you know, as a person with, you know, with a job and family, you know, my time is precious to me. I really don't want to be standing in line at the Registry of Motor Vehicles. If there's something I can be doing online or from my computer at home, you know, updating my license, renewing my registration, you know, those are the kinds of things you want to talk to them about. In my field, you know, again, we spend millions of dollars in these large-scale highway projects. It's easier for me to build a traffic signal that costs $4 million than it is for me to build a sidewalk that costs $400,000.
Right.
So in the CIP, we can do both those things. You know, we can talk about a sidewalk program that you know only connects from, you know, a mile of roadway, but that might be critical mile of roadway. You know, even sometimes it's a crosswalk or a curb ramp. So you know, if you are in a wheelchair or you're pushing a baby stroller, it's easy for you to get on the sidewalk or get off the sidewalk. All these things are in the CIP, and MassDOT wants to hear about it. We also used to have, from Mass Highway, we used to have what they called mega projects. And these are the large-scale projects that didn't fit within our transportation improvement program. Again, you know, we get $10 million a year, and I know it sounds like a lot of money, but in the highway, right, in the highway side, it isn't that big. But so something like the Hyannis Access Study, you know, it's a $50 million project to improve the airport rotary, one rotary,
right.
You know, $50 million. If you can remember back, the Sagamore rotary, the replacement of that was $50 million.
Yep.
You know, so it's very comparable. Well, that we can't fix within our budget, so we have to look to the state, and that's where this CIP program, they're able to incorporate that. You know, they have billions of dollars in their CIP program, goes across the state, but they can pick and choose these large-scale projects and take them on. It's also a good place for studies, too. You know, Route 28 and Yarmouth Road, that traffic signal came out of the Hyannis Access Study, which is a project that was taken on by MassDOT. She's more than 10 years ago now, I believe. Well, I think it started 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, and it takes, but let's just say we wanted rail, you know, full-time commuter rail service to Hyannis. Well, you know, it starts with a study. You know, MassDOT wants to know how many people want to be taking that rail service. I talk to a lot of people. They all think it's a good idea. They love the idea, but they need to know some numbers.
Right.
You know, you got to dig into how many people are actually commuting up to Boston, how many people are driving now, how many people would stop driving and get on the rail service, and then also too, if you had rail service, how many people would actually use that? You know, they may not ever contemplate driving to Boston for a job, but if you can get on the train, I'll tell you, I take it from Middleborough to Boston all the time. It's always 1 hour. You can really count on it, and it's almost relaxing.
Yeah.
It isn't like driving. It isn't as stressful as driving. So
driving in that early morning traffic to Boston is not relaxing. So.
Right, it is not relaxing. So you know, if that service is available, you know, do you consider taking a job in Boston and still living down here?
Right.
Because now that commute, again, it would be time consuming, but a lot less stressful. So,
right.
So a very important process here. You know, again, MassDOT does want to hear from us. They rolled it out last year. I don't think they had a lot of people come out, and they were a little bit disappointed with the numbers, so they want us to push it a little bit more. Again, when I get a time and a date, I'll certainly let you know. We want to broadcast that out. They do it a little bit different. They'll have personnel from all their different departments. You know, there'll be Highway Department, the Transit Department, MBTA, Registry of Motor Vehicles, and they want to hear from people who have ideas about what works for them, what doesn't work for them. You know, and this is really all different types of programs that MassDOT is involved with. The average citizen may not know it, but you know, but it's good for you to realize how much they actually do.
Yeah.
You know, we have Safe Routes to Schools programs, which are good for making your schools more walkable. I know we work with a lot of towns now because town budgets are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. They always seem to cut back on busing if you're within like a mile of the school.
Right.
So now you're asking these kids to walk, and we really don't know if they have sidewalks to walk across. You know, are these roadways dangerous? Are there dangerous crossings? So those are the kinds of things they need to know about. And it even gets down to like filling potholes. So, you know, every town has a Chapter 90 fund from MassDOT. That's the town money to fix the roadways. Well, that money's been fixed for years now. You know, if we want to see a little bit of an increase to it, now that's the time to advocate for that Chapter 90 funding. You know, you'll hear the DPW directors talk about how they always need more money. They're always looking for more money. It's very difficult. So that's where that funding source comes from. So it's wide ranging. It's really all encompassing for transportation. MassDOT now has taken over all the different divisions. They're all under one roof, and this is the place where they all come together. So it's very important.
Wonderful. Definitely let us know when that meeting is going to be held, because I think it's important for people to go out. Like you said, it could be small as a pothole and upwards from there.
Yeah, and I do want to say, I mean, you'll be able to email in your comments. I believe they're going to have forums. They may have like a Facebook Live during the event, just so you can view it if you want to see it. But you'll always be able to write a letter, send an email, be other ways to reach out to them. But you want to make sure you're involved in it. They definitely want to hear from you. They want to know where you want your money spent.
Right.
Remember, this is all taxed. This is your money from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Right.
They want to hear from you. They want to know where you want your money spent.
Right.
MassDOT is always trying to maximize the dollars being spent on all these projects. They really want to know how many people are going to be utilizing a service, benefiting the most people. They want to know the most hazardous locations. In your opinion, we all have crash data, and sometimes it's good data, and sometimes it isn't the greatest data. Quite honestly, for pedestrians and bicyclists, we don't have a lot of great data.
Right.
So they need to hear from residents.
Wonderful.
It's very important.
That's great. That's great that they want that citizen participation. The Cape Cod Metropolitan Planning Organization is meeting on February 26th. What can you tell us about this meeting?
That is, again, one of our projects that we have for the Transportation Improvement Plan, and then we also have studies within there too. We're starting to do our outreach for residents. So, we want to look at intersections and roadways. We want to know about hazardous intersections, just like MassDOT does. We're more smaller scale. It's more just on the highway side. But we want to do that outreach now to hear from residents to what they want to have improved on Cape Cod. It isn't as encompassing as what MassDOT does, but again, same as us, we have $10 million a year, and I know it sounds like a lot of money, but we really only get about 2 projects done a year.
Right.
I have 10 projects already waiting for the money, but are those the best projects? Can we, is there something that's more important to the residents? Is there a hazardous intersection out there that we don't know about?
Right.
Or, again, with bicycle and pedestrian crashes, they don't always get reported. People get knocked off their bicycle by a car, they get back up, they get on their bike, they ride away. They don't really report those crashes. We don't know where a lot of them are happening. So we need to hear from residents.
When, where, and what time will this meeting take place?
It's a Monday, February 26th at the Cape Cod Commission office at 1 o'clock. And again, they can always email me, always send in their comments. We want to hear from everyone. But it's time to start that process of when we're going to be starting the projects for the next year. So, it's a very critical time for us to hear from residents.
Wonderful. Glenn, thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful information. It's very important that people take part in the process. It's, these are our roads, and this is the time to have your opinion and your voice be heard.
Correct. It really is. This is the time to do it. Don't wait until after it happens. Voice your opinion now, and we'll see if we can work it into the plan.
Wonderful. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
No problem, sir. Thank you.
My guest today is Glenn Cannon. He's the Director of Technical Services at the Cape Cod Commission. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. And before we get into anything that we're going to discuss, I want to say congratulations. The last Airport Commission meeting, they voted to offer you or make you the airport manager when Bud Brialt retires. So that will happen, I think, this summer, correct?
That's correct. Thank you very much, Sarah, for saying that. Yes, Bud is retiring. He's been with the airport for about 9 years now. His last day will be June 28th, and he will be missed tremendously. He's a great person to work with, and he's done a lot for the airport during his time here. He has seen many construction projects, including one of the biggest one that probably had most of the public eye on, which is the brand new terminal and the control tower. So that happened in 2011, I believe. So Bud saw that whole process take place, and of course there's been many, many airfield projects that he has been overseeing through the years, whether it's rehabilitation of our runways or our taxiways. He's been here for a lot of that and looked at ways to get funding for those projects. So he's done a lot in his time here, so he'll be missed.
He will be.
Sure.
He will be for sure, but you're definitely, I'm so happy to know that they've put their support behind you and have you come in as the airport manager. I think that's a wonderful choice. So I'm really looking forward to, the work that you're going to do as airport manager coming up.
Thank you very much. I'm kind of excited about the opportunity. I think the airport itself has a lot to offer. I think one of the biggest things, and this can kind of lead into one of our other discussions, is the fact that the airport, it is an airport. It's aviation, transportation. It is basically the connection for the Cape and the islands for air transportation. We also have Peter Pan bus lines that offer service to and from Boston from the airport. So there's a lot going on here, but aviation in itself, goes through cycles. So the airport really has to look at different ways to have different types of revenue streams that not necessarily associated always with aviation. So we are looking at other avenues to pursue. We're looking at some of the land that we have available here on the airport and looking at other opportunities so that the airport really diversifies its revenue stream, really looks at different ways that it can keep the airport going even when we have these cycles. And the cycle I'm speaking about right now, we have nationwide, there's a huge pilot shortage, and it's really affecting the airport. So we really have to be diligent when we're looking at other opportunities. So look forward to seeing some future opportunities within the next couple of years. Myself and the Airport Commission have been working on a marketing plan for the airport to identify where these other types of revenue streams can come from.
Wonderful. I think, there's been a lot of talk about a lot of the land around the airport, so I know this is going to be a topic of conversation for us for quite a few years, like you said. What I do want to talk about is, I know it's a big thing every year, but JetBlue will be returning to the airport.
Yes, JetBlue will be returning. It's going to be their 5th year. We're very excited. They had a very successful year last season for them. They haven't announced their date of return. We have heard May, we have heard June. So they haven't really come out and said exactly which date they would be coming back to the airport. Typically they run from the May-June time frame until about September-October time frame. They do daily flights except during the beginning of the season and the end of the season where you might see them maybe doing 4 flights a day. Mm-hmm. But they do fly to and from JFK. We've had quite a few people, businesses within the Cape region reach out to us in hopes of having even more of a schedule going to JFK. It seems to be an easy route for a lot of people who either want to just go to New York for a long weekend or going to New York for business. So I've actually had quite a few business folks here within Barnstable and within the Cape reach out to me and say, hey, is JetBlue interested in having any other type of service year-round? Because we need to go to New York on a regular basis for work. So we'll be talking to JetBlue about those opportunities.
Yeah, it'd be great to have the opportunity to leave right from Hyannis and go to JFK, and from JFK you can go anywhere.
Exactly, and that's a good point to make. I mean, if we can have that connection to JFK, if a family wants to fly to Europe from JFK, or they don't feel like going up to Boston or to Providence to deal with the traffic, mm-hmm. then that opportunity is right here at Hyannis, at Barnstable Airport. And we're hoping to expand that service so that people get used to a regular schedule, have the opportunity to perhaps go from here to Florida. That has been a constant comment from many folks mm-hmm. about that opportunity. So we are trying to expand the service. I think really what has to happen is we need to hear from folks that are interested in year-round service to and from Florida, year-round service to and from JFK. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here for this airport to expand its service, and we would definitely like to see that.
Wonderful. We also want to talk about Cape Cod Coffee's been at the airport for about 2 months now, I would say. About 2 months, would you say?
Cape Cod Coffee, actually, I met the owners of Cape Cod Coffee, I have to say in September. It was during the Cape Cod Young Professionals Bash that we held here at the airport. So that was about the end of September. By October, Cape Cod Coffee had moved into our cafe at the airport. So they've been here for quite some time. It's great coming into work and smelling their delicious coffee. We have many meetings where we use their coffee as well. But they've branched beyond just coffee. They are also making donuts here at the airport. They have fresh donuts every day. They are excellent. I think you indicated that you like the blueberry and the chocolate.
Yes.
So they are excellent donuts. They're very tasty. They also have soups and sandwiches during the day. Right now, their hours are 5:30 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. They are closed on Sundays here at the airport, but they're open 6 days a week. As soon as we start getting our season going and we start seeing more and more traffic at the airport, which is typical for us and typical for a lot of Cape and Islands businesses, as soon as that starts to have an uptick, they'll change their hours. So, just keep an eye on that. One thing that I did want to say that Cape Cod Coffee is adding, one of the things that they said immediately off the bat when they first got here is that outdoor seating would be ideal for the cafe and for Cape Cod Coffee. So last week they went in front of the town to ask for approval for a liquor license that includes an outdoor patio and outdoor seating. So that was approved. So at some point in time, you'll see a new patio out there for outdoor seating, but you'll also see Cape Cod Coffee working with their partners, such as Cape Cod Beer and Cape and Island Distillery, where they'll sell their partners alcohol here at the airport.
Wonderful. I know there's a want and a need for that, especially when you have events and things at the airport. It'd be nice to have that, and I know travelers like to maybe have a little something while they're waiting for their flight, and it's a great opportunity. And I love the availability of parking for Cape Cod Coffee. It's so nice. You can go right in, and there's a small parking lot to the right of the terminal for employees, but there's a handful of Cape Cod Coffee spaces there, and it makes it so convenient and so easy. You can just park, go in, get what you need, and come right back out.
Exactly, and we just made a decision to do that as soon as Cape Cod Coffee came on board, because one of the things that was causing a problem was that even though we validated parking, so if you went into the cafe and you got a cup of coffee or you got a sandwich, we would validate your parking so you wouldn't have to pay for parking. But many people approached us and said, it's kind of confusing because everybody thinks, oh, we have to pay to park, I'm not going to go to the cafe.
Right.
You're right, that is not the case anymore. We have parking that's located right next to the cafe. It's free to everybody that's using the cafe. We have 10 dedicated spots for the cafe, but you can use any other spots that do not have a dedicated spot. Just come right in. Feel free to come in and buy some coffee from Cape Cod Coffee, or in the future sit out at their patio and sip a nice beer from Cape Cod Beer or from the Cape and Island Distillery.
That's wonderful. One last thing I want to talk about before I let you go is that the Cape Cod Young Professionals Back to Business Bash is coming back to the airport. I know this is a little ways away, but we want to let people know that it will be returning.
Yes. So we had a very successful 2016 and 2017 event. In 2016, we had over 600 participants, which was phenomenal. In 2017, we upped that by adding an additional tent outside in the parking lot, so that provided for 900 participants. You'll see about the same amount of participants return for their 12th year here at the airport. It'll be in September again in 2018, and just look forward to that, and I'm sure you'll see more information as we get closer to that date.
Wonderful. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today and updating us on everything that's going on at the airport. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Sarah.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
My guest today is Katie Service. She's the Assistant Airport Manager at the Barnstable Municipal Airport. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new show. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah B.